On the far northern shore of the greatest of the Great Lakes, a tea-dark river makes its final run to the water. In its last half-mile, it throws itself down a staircase of waterfalls, roaring through a narrow gorge of ancient stone before it spills at last into Lake Superior. This is water and rock in their oldest conversation. Welcome to Cascade River State Park. We are on the north shore of Lake Superior in northeastern Minnesota, roughly halfway between the towns of Toft and Grand Marais. Here the land tilts steeply down to the lake, and every river that crosses it must plunge the last stretch in a rush of rapids and falls. The Cascade River is one of the finest of them all. The park takes its name from what the river does at its end. In just the final half-mile before the lake, the Cascade River drops around 120 feet, tumbling over ledge after ledge in an almost continuous chain of waterfalls. There is no single grand plunge here, but a long, restless staircase of white water, one cascade after another, giving the river and the park their name. The falls pour through a deep, narrow gorge cut straight into the bedrock. Sheer dark walls rise close on either side, hung with dripping moss and clinging cedar, their shaded stones slick and green with mist. The trail follows the lip of this chasm, so that the whole descent of the river unfolds just below your feet, loud and cool and half hidden in the trees. Look closely, and the water itself tells a story. The Cascade runs the color of dark tea, its foam tinted the shade of root beer. This is not pollution, but the gift of the wild country upstream, where the river gathers through spruce bogs and peatlands. There it soaks up tannins from decaying needles and roots, staining the water brown before it ever reaches these falls. The rock the river carves is almost unimaginably old. These are volcanic stones, dark basalt and hard rhyolite, born of vast lava flows that hardened here more than 1 billion years ago. They are among the most ancient bedrock exposed anywhere in the country, a foundation laid down long before there were forests, or fish, or falling water to shape them. Their story begins with a wound in the continent itself. About 1.1 billion years ago, North America began to split apart along what geologists call the mid-continent rift. For millions of years, molten rock welled up through the tear and spread in flow upon flow of lava. The rift eventually failed and healed, but the great basin it left behind would one day cradle Lake Superior. And it is into that inland sea the river falls. Lake Superior is the largest freshwater lake on Earth by surface area, so vast it holds seas of its own weather. The Ojibwe know it as Gichigami, the Great Sea, and stand in awe of its cold and depth. To watch the little Cascade River give itself to that immense horizon is to feel the true scale of this place. All around the gorge stands the Great Northern Woods. This is the southern edge of the boreal forest, a green tangle of white cedar and spruce, of paper birch and trembling aspen, rooted in thin soil over hard rock. Cedars lean out over the water, their roots gripping the ledges, and the air carries the clean, resinous smell of the north. In autumn, the forest catches fire. The birches and aspens turn to shimmering gold, the maples on the ridges above blaze scarlet and orange, and the dark evergreens hold the whole blaze together. Against the black, wet rock and the white, rushing water, the colors seem almost to glow. It is the North Shore at the height of its brief, brilliant fall. Through these woods runs one of the great footpaths of the region. The Superior Hiking Trail threads the length of the North Shore along the high ridges above the lake, and it crosses the Cascade here, climbing beside the falls and out to overlooks high above the gorge. From those heights, the river becomes a thread of silver stitched into an endless green forest. Long before any trail was blazed, this was, and remains, the homeland of the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe people of the Great Lake. For generations they have lived along this shore, traveling its waters, gathering wild rice and maple sugar, and honoring Gichigami as a living presence. To walk this coast is to move through a landscape held sacred and known intimately for centuries. This is still genuinely wild country. Moose browse the willow thickets of the backcountry, and the howl of the gray wolf still carries through these forests, one of the last strongholds of the wolf in the lower states. Overhead, bald eagles ride the wind off the lake. The Cascade Valley is a corridor of that northern wilderness, running right down to the shore. The park that protects it was shaped by many hands during hard times. In the 1930s, crews of the Civilian Conservation Corps worked along this shore, cutting trails, setting stone steps, and building the rugged shelters and walls that still guide visitors today. Their careful stonework, quarried from the very rock of the North Shore, remains woven into the paths beside the falls. And still the river works. Every spring flood, every autumn rain, sends the Cascade grinding a little deeper into its billion-year-old bed, carrying the North Shore grain by grain into the lake. The falls we see today are simply this moment in a labor with no end, the patient, timeless power of water carving stone on its long way down to the inland sea. A staircase of falls in an ancient gorge, tea-dark water born in the bogs, a boreal forest in autumn fire, and the great sea waiting below. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.